On today's Strictly Vikings, we discuss the possibility of Matthew Stafford being a Viking in 2025. Is it real? I think so. We're going to take a look at another league. It's usually a league I don't pay attention to, but we're going to take a look at the NBA just because of what the Timberwolves did on Tuesday night against the Oklahoma City Thunder. We're going to do stay or go with a Vikings free agent. We're looking at the secondary today. And of course, we'll talk about our free agent and draft player. We're on to number 6, week 6 of looking at possible future Vikings. And of course, we'll finish it off with our ChatGPT player of the day. Let's get into it. Today is Wednesday, February 26th, and Matthew Stafford to the Vikings is heating up. Actually, I don't know if I would say it's heating up. I would say it's on the back burner right now. There's been a lot of talk about Matthew Stafford just because the Rams gave him permission to go see what's out there, to go see what his market is, to go see what other NFL teams would be willing to pay a 37-year-old quarterback that's won a Super Bowl. And honestly, that was 20 yards away from going to the NFC Championship game against the Commanders and beating the Eagles in the divisional round. So, and obviously, if you're listening to this, you're probably a Vikings fan, and I don't need to tell you about Matthew Stafford because you saw what he did against the Vikings twice this year, absolutely dicing our defense up. The thing about Matthew Stafford to the Vikings is that, one, I don't think it gets done without dealing J.J. McCarthy, which would it be a huge blow? I guess we don't really know because we don't know how good J.J. McCarthy is. It would suck in the aspect of like we think we have our future with J.J. McCarthy and he was our 10th overall pick and everything that KOC has said about him would instantly go out the window because we're moving on from him. But on the other hand, it's Matthew Stafford, a Super Bowl winning quarterback that could lead this team to the Super Bowl, to the NFC Championship game, and get this team over the edge and be the one piece that the Vikings have been missing for I don't know how long, since 2009 probably. Kirk Cousins didn't get it done. Keenum didn't get it done. I mean, hell, Brett Favre didn't even get it done, but he got us there. So it could be that difference-making move of getting a Matthew Stafford here. What would it take? Like I said, it'd probably take J.J. McCarthy. It would probably take, honestly, more from the Rams if we were to deal J.J. McCarthy, because if you're treating him like the 10th overall pick and you're getting an aging quarterback that you're going to have to pay because he's looking for a new deal, you're probably going to have to get something in return. Hopefully it's draft compensation this year. So the Vikings would be looking at, they would do some rework with Stafford's contract. They'd push some money down the road, kick the can down the road, as a lot of NFL teams do. And Matthew Stafford, I think his base salary is around $23 million for this upcoming season. That's roughly a third of the Vikings cap space. So you're dealing with $40 million extra in cap space, a first-round pick, whatever pick you get from the Rams if you do deal J.J. McCarthy, to fully revamp this Vikings defense, as in the secondary, interior defensive line, the interior of this offensive line. There's no shortage of weapons. There's no shortage of coaching. So if this happens, I mean, it's an all-in move by the Vikings in the next 2 to 3 years here. I would say actually 1 to 2 years. I wouldn't even say 2 to 3, 1 to 2. Mixed emotions about it on my end. I think I would be obviously I would be excited because it's like we're trying to do it. And honestly, where my mind goes with it is, does Kwesi Adofo-Mensah want to put his career into J.J. McCarthy's hand? Because if J.J. McCarthy can't win games and there's an obvious struggle and Kwesi drafted him, he's most likely out as the Vikings GM. Now, if Kwesi does that deal for Stafford and it doesn't work out, probably the same thing, obviously. But I think Kwesi would rather bank on Stafford a proven winner, a proven Super Bowl champion. I think you'd rather bet on a guy like that than he would JJ McCarthy. We'll see what happens. The chances of this happening are low. I'm not going to get my hopes up. And honestly, I think rolling with JJ McCarthy might just be the right move. Have a deal, have a quarterback on a rookie deal. Don't commit all that money to an aging quarterback and see what JJ is. Maybe JJ is better than Matthew Stafford. It sounds crazy. It sounds absolutely crazy when you say it, but you honestly have no idea. Obviously, the easiest thing to say is he's way worse, but what if he's not? What if he's just good? We're going to see. Kwesi and KOC both talked at the Combine today. Christian Darrisaw is progressing well in his return from a torn ACL. You love to hear that. Obviously, Cam Robinson will be gone, and Darrisaw returning to the left side of that offensive line will be huge, especially for the new left guard, whoever it may be, moving forward. KOC states that they're evaluating both the short and long term when it comes to the quarterback position, and he's excited about what lies ahead. I don't know if people were expecting more of like a clear-cut answer from Kwesi and KOC at the Combine today when they talked, or yesterday, I guess. But you're not going to get one. I mean, you're literally never going to get one. They did the same thing with Kirk. Just they didn't really hint at things. They just kind of said, we were excited about what Kirk accomplished. We're excited about what Sam Darnold accomplished, and we'll see what happens. Blah 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 blah. They're not gonna tip their hand on anything here, and that's just being smart head coach and NFL GM. So I don't know what people are expecting, but don't expect to get anything before something is actually happens. Kwesi Adofo-Mensah said, "We have options when it comes to the Sam Darnold situation." He also said this is a very good running back class. So we have a lot of options. And then there was also some mutual interest with Aaron Jones. I think Aaron Jones wants to stay here, not a flex. I did talk to him at the Super Bowl at a party. He loves Minnesota. He loves being here. He loves playing here. He wants to come back. There's definitely mutual interest there. His workload will definitely go down next season. Hoping the Vikings draft a running back in the very deep running back class and very good running back class, as quote unquote Kwesi Adofo-Mensah said today at the NFL Combine. So I think the possibility of Aaron Jones coming back is high if he's willing to cooperate with the Vikings and what they're willing to pay him and what his role will be as a 30-year-old running back. I don't know what the contract will be, 1-2 years, what the amount will be. I'm not sure. I don't know what a good comp would be for that. I feel like Aaron Jones still has some juice left in his tank. So we'll see what happens. But I think just from a leadership standpoint as well, the Vikings would like to see Aaron Jones back in the locker room next season. The Vikings set up a meeting with Ashton Jeanty. That would be a very, very fun, exciting, thrilling draft pick. Do I think it's the right one? No, because I think football is won in the trenches, and it's about time the Vikings stop ignoring their offensive and defensive line issues and solidify the solution in the draft with a young player on a rookie deal that can play for the Vikings for 4+ years. And I would want it to be on the defensive side of the ball because I just feel like the Vikings can't develop guys on the offensive line. On the same note, the Vikings hired a new offensive line coach, team's assistant offensive line coach, Keith Carter. Carter spent the 23 and 24 seasons as the Jets offensive line coach and run game coordinator. So, I mean, he's taking... just dropped my phone. Sorry, it has all my notes on it. So obviously he's taking a little bit of a downgrade in a job, but sorry, I'm adjusting my chair here. All hell's breaking loose in the studio. Obviously getting him in to help with this run game that needs to be fixed schematically, personnel wise, and I mean that's about it. But both schematically and personnel wise, they needs to be fixed. So Jonathan Allen, Commanders defensive tackle, is set to hit the market. His rep agency is based in Minneapolis, Team IFA. I've actually done some work with them. And I think there would be interest in him playing here because I think he knows his role would be huge here with the lack of defensive interior pressure that the Vikings have. But do the Vikings want to bring in an aging veteran, not knowing what he wants kind of type deal? I'm not sure. So we'll see. But I highly doubt Jonathan Allen is the guy for the Vikings. Then I got a fun little hypothetical here that was circulating on the timeline over the past week or so. Would you trade JJ McCarthy for the number 1 overall pick to the Titans? That's a very good question. I don't. Obviously, this year's number 1 pick is not as valued as previous years because obviously it wouldn't be on the market if it was. But would I do it? I don't know. I think the only way I would is if there's a team really wanting to trade up to 1 and the Vikings somehow got it, and then the Vikings were able to flip it for a haul. But again, if a team wants to trade up for 1, I don't know why the Titans wouldn't just go to them and cut out the middleman, the Vikings, unless they're obsessed with JJ McCarthy for whatever reason. It's a hypothetical, and we don't need to discuss hypotheticals for this entire podcast. But I think it is. I don't think I would do it because I think the Vikings would end up picking at number 1, and I think whoever you would pick at number 1 isn't worth the number 1 overall pick. Not saying I should rephrase that. Someone is going to be worth the number 1 overall pick in this draft. But deciding who that player is might be tough. And I think Abdul Carter is arguably the best player to take. But do the Vikings need him? No. They just drafted an edge rusher last season. So we'll see. And we won't see because it's not going to happen. But we'll see what the Titans do with the number 1 overall pick. And we'll see if my hypothetical of trading JJ McCarthy would ever pan out in a real life situation. Excuse me. All right, let's take a side-eye look around the league, except we're going to look at a different league. It's called the National Basketball Association because the Minnesota Timberwolves just came back from 25 freaking points against the best team in the NBA. I was watching this game, one eye on the TV most of the game because the Wolves were getting freaking skull pounded by the Thunder. Down 25 in the third, down 16 with less than 4 minutes to play. Actually, let me fact check that. Timberwolves are, down 16 with 3:41 to play, and they end up winning in overtime. 16-0 run to end the fourth quarter to force overtime. Jaden McDaniels, excellent. Naz Reid, excellent. Terrence Shannon Jr., excellent. Anthony Edwards wasn't even in the game towards the end of the fourth quarter because he was dealing with, a hammy, with his calf. But those were the guys that got you back into the game, so you just got to ride with them. And that's exactly what Chris Finch was doing until Anthony Edwards got the green light to go. And Edwards came in, capped it off with one of his best career highlights, a dunk or a block at the rim against Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. We out-auraed him. And then Anthony Edwards, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and Jaden McDaniels all did the Thunder little post-game thing that they always do, corny as hell, and they were mocking them, and I know they were because the Timberwolves never do that. And Jaden McDaniels posted on Instagram yesterday saying, it ain't over till it's over. And it was that picture of those three guys. So I like this little Western Conference beef we got going on here. Thunder don't like the Wolves. Wolves don't like the Thunder. It's great for the game. It makes the games more exciting. It makes the league more exciting. It makes it more fun to watch the Timberwolves. And obviously, Anthony Edwards is a highlight-making, trash-talking, crossover playmaker. But when you got beef going on, it just makes it all that more exciting. And I tweeted this last night. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is a better player than Anthony Edwards right now. That's obvious. Shea's probably going to win the MVP this season. He's leading the best team in the NBA. But if I had to watch that ticky-tack, foul baiting bullshit every night, it would drive me absolutely insane. Give me the dunks, give me the crossovers, give me the trash talking every single day of the week. And I honestly think Anthony Edwards can be better than Shea, because why not? Because we haven't seen what Anthony Edwards is capable of. We haven't seen it with Shea either. But I think Anthony Edwards could be better. Way better. Than, I don't know about way better than Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. 4 players recorded double-doubles in that game. Terrence Shannon, Naz Reid, Jaden McDaniels, Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards, 2 assists away from a triple-double, would have been his first ever. And to all those people out there saying that the Minnesota Timberwolves' future was jeopardized because of the Rudy Gobert trade, look at us now. Look at us now. Just take a look at who the Timberwolves have, young players-wise, core-wise, moving forward. Rob Dillingham is 20. Jalen Clark is 23. Anthony Edwards is 23. Jaden McDaniels is 24. Terrence Shannon Jr. is 24. And Naz Reid is 25. If you can keep those 6 guys together, which you should be able to for the next 3 to 4 years, who the hell knows what could happen? Not to mention Nickeil Alexander-Walker is 26. Who knows what could happen with these teams? Or with this teams moving forward. I freaking love the Minnesota Timberwolves. I've been a huge fan. I've been going to games since I was a freaking little kid. And I've never been excited about Timberwolves basketball like I am these past couple seasons. All right. Let's get back to the Vikings here. We're going to do stay or go. Today we're talking Shaq Griffin. Honestly, this is going to be a shorter one just because I think this is a pretty obvious one. I do not think the Vikings are going to bring him back. Therefore, go. I know I just revealed it, and I usually don't do that right away, but he's an aging corner. I don't know what the market is for him. I don't know what he's going to demand from teams, like money-wise, and I just don't think teams are going to be able to cough up that money. I think the Vikings would just want to go a younger, more proven route than they did with Shaq Griffin. And I think the return of Mekhi Blackmon also plays a factor into this. They had high hopes for him in his rookie year. He played great. Obviously, coming back from the torn ACL. I think there's better options out there. I think there's better options in the draft. And I think if you re-sign Byron Murphy, you bank on Mekhi Blackmon, and then you go get another one, maybe a DJ Reed, maybe you draft a guy. I just don't think you can have another guy on contract like Shaq Griffin. I just don't think it's worth it. I think you go with the youth. I think you go with the younger route. You let Brian Flores develop them, and you see where you go from there. I like Shaq Griffin, though. I think he's a great guy, cool guy. If he comes back to the Vikings, I'm not going to be mad. I don't know how much he'll play, but I'm not going to be mad if he comes back to Minnesota. But we'll see what happens. All right. Let's get into our first NFL draft highlight. Player number 6, Combine Week. I love how much the Combine, quick little side rant here. I love how much the Combine is like a normal NFL event now. Like the NFL will market anything. And all you have is guys doing the bench press, running cone drills, and 40-yard dashes. Some quarterbacks throw. Most of the top guys don't, though, because they just don't feel the need to, because they have 4 years of tape out there that they would rather speak for itself. And honestly, that's what I would do too, because why do I need to throw in a non-game setting when you can watch a million plays of me in a college football setting and base me off that instead of and again, I'm not inside these NFL rooms and these war rooms of what's going on. So I don't know how much is weighed when it comes to the Combine. Obviously guys can rise and fall whether either way, but I don't think it should be weighed that much. I just honestly think they're not in pads. Like, I'm probably sounding like a boomer, but it's like, again, it's just amazing to me that the NFL can market anything because it's not that much of significance. It never used to be televised, but now it's like this whole big week-long thing. And of course, I'm going to sit down and watch it, and I'm going to freaking judge everybody based on their 40 times and how they threw and all of this stuff. But again, I don't know how much it should be weighed. But it's just amazing to me how much the NFL can market an NFL draft combine and like have all these guys talking about it and digesting it. I don't know. I like it. I like Combine Week. You see the draftees for the first time, all sorts of kind of stuff. So it's whatever. But today we're going to highlight Toledo defensive tackle Darius Alexander. This guy is an athletic specimen. The thing I love the most about him is that he's an athlete. He's not just succeeding because of his size. He's not succeeding because of the scheme that he's in. And it's not just like he's bulldozing people over and he's just bigger than all these guys in college. He's an athlete. And I think sometimes that can hurt him because he thinks he's better than everybody else. So sometimes his pad level is too high. And when it should be lower, he struggles in the run game sometimes. Maybe he plays hero ball a little bit, but this guy is an athlete. He's 6'3", 304 pounds. This dude has a play on film in which he dropped back in coverage. We're talking about a defensive tackle right now. He dropped back in coverage, read the quarterback's eyes, intercepted the ball, and then took it all the way to the crib for a score. We're talking about an athletic freak in Darius Alexander. And the Vikings already met with this guy. The Vikings already have interest, obviously, if they're meeting with him. And the biggest thing that I think his value is to the Vikings is his interior pass rushing. He's long, he's got good hands, and he's quick, and he balled out at the Senior Bowl. The best linemen that are all going to get drafted in this year's class, he balled out. He made them all look foolish, except Gray Zabel, who held his own, and as he should, he's probably going to be a first-round pick. But this guy can rush the passer from the interior of this defensive line, and he's a stud when it gets down to it. He played in the MAC, but honestly, that doesn't really stick out on tape. Like, just the way he was getting around guys, the elusiveness, the way he was using his hands, it's like that's going to work against anybody. It wasn't just like like I said earlier, it's not like he's just stronger than these guys and physically dominating them. Not saying he's not strong, but there's just some of those guys where it's just like, yeah, he's just bigger. You know what I mean? Like that guy in high school who's a D1 recruit, but he's not polished. He doesn't have that just like that factor to him. He's just bigger and faster than all of these kids. That's not the case with this guy. He's the real deal, and I think he's going to be bottom first round, top of second. And he's an athlete. I think this could be a guy where the combine helps him a lot if he runs a good 40 time, if he has a good agility, if he looks good going through the drills. I think those are the type of guys that are like, okay, they stand out in the open field. They're just, when they're that big and they're moving like that, those are the guys that benefit a lot from the NFL combine. This pick could be on the riskier side of things. It's not the safest pick in the world, but it also has the potential to be a game wrecker. I mean, I don't want to compare him to Chris Jones, but it's given me Chris Jones vibes of just his size, his athleticism, and just the way he moves and the way you can move him around on the defensive line. He has a lot of improving to do, especially in the run game, but those are the kind of vibes he's given me. And if it's a home run and you develop this guy to be a stud and fit his body, he could definitely be that guy. He also is on the older side, though, turning 24 years old. Honestly, it is a factor. Like Dallas Turner is like 4 years younger than that. Dallas Turner just turned 21, I think, or no, maybe 22. But Dallas Turner is a lot younger. I think this Darius is either going to turn. I think he's 24 right now. He's going to be 25 as the season starts. So obviously age, but it's like, who cares if it's 3 years older? Like, just take the guy that's good if you want him. Don't let it weigh into that decision as that much. But Darius Alexander, if you haven't watched the film, man, just look him up on Twitter. Great stuff. All right, NFL free agent highlight player number 6. We're going to talk about Dolphins safety Jevon Holland. Obviously, a lot of this hinders on the Harrison Smith-Cam Bynum decision. I believe if they lose one or both, the Vikings, obviously both, but if they do lose one, I think the Vikings could be in the market for a safety, and I think it's a position they'd be willing to pay. Josh Metellus is kind of their chess piece. He likes to play everywhere, and I think you'd want to keep him in that position than making him like a full-time coverage guy. I think Josh Metellus is just better in his role of being able to do whatever B-Flow wants him to do and just kind of roaming around, lining up all over the field. And obviously, if you lose Smith or Bynum, you're going to have to replace them both. You're going to have to replace both of them, and I think Jevon Holland would be up there. Holland did play with Flores in Miami, and I think he loved it. He mentioned some things, Holland mentioned some things that he looks for in a team. Experienced coaching, honest culture, men-leading head coach, team that wants to win, leaders that set examples by action. Welcome to the Vikings. I mean, those are key factors, obviously, when looking for a team, but these just sound like the Minnesota Vikings. You have experienced coaching. You have an honest culture. Kevin O'Connell has established both of those things. You have a men-leading head coach. Of course you do. Have you watched the post-game why don't you just go show Jevon Holland the Vikings YouTube channel and watch him or make him watch Kevin O'Connell give those post-game interviews, and he'll be like, I'm on board. Team that wants to win. Obviously, the Vikings want to win. Leaders that set examples by action. So we're talking Justin Jefferson. We're talking Sam Darnold of last season. We're talking defensive guys as in Harrison Smith, Jonathan Grenard, Andrew Van Ginkel, all guys who set the tone in the locker room, and they can also set the tone on the field, and they're not all talk. So why not? He had his worst season last year, but the previous 2 seasons were excellent. For example, he had 62 total tackles and a 63 PFF rating last season. Compared to a season before that, he had 74 tackles and 90.4 PFF rating. So obviously the tape is out there. He had a down season last season. Does that have something to do with the Dolphins scheme, coaching, how competitive they were? I'm sure. But I don't think those good seasons that he had earlier in his career were just kind of some one-off. I think he's legit, and I think that he is a legitimate candidate to be a Viking this upcoming season. He's a true free safety, and B-Flow would find a nice role for him. But again, all of this is based on Harrison Smith and Cam Bynum and what happens with those 2 guys. If those 2 guys come back, obviously the Vikings are not going to be in the market to sign a big money safety in Jevon Holland. He's projecting to get around $20 million a year, according to PFF, for about 4 years. So again, if you're losing Cam Bynum, now that I think about it, I think it's only if you lose Cam Bynum you sign him. Honestly, it just comes down to, would you rather sign Cam Bynum or Jevon Holland? Not saying you have to sign either of them, but it's like those are kind of the best options. I think PFF has Jevon Holland ranked as their 4th best free agent available on the entire list. So could be a decent option. All right. Good episode. Quick episode, I feel like, but we're a half hour into it. ChatGPT, name the most random Viking you can think of. I appreciate you guys tuning in to the off-season episodes. I think after the after the draft, we're going to drop down to every other week just because NFL news gets really, really, really slow. It has been even these last 3 weeks, but I'm just going to stick through it. Obviously through the combine, obviously through the draft and free agency. We're 2 weeks away. No, are we actually only 2 weeks away from free agency? We are less than 2 weeks away from the start of free agency. That's going to be very exciting. All right, name the most random Vikings player you can think of. I'm so excited for free agency. All right, here we go. I'm going to do, I think it was Toby Gerhart last week. I'm going to go Jim Kleinsasser. Come on. How about Randy Moss? Get out of here. While he's certainly famous, his name still feels random given that he played for the Vikings in his prime and his personality and play style always kept things interesting. How is he random? Makes no sense, ChatGPT. That's why you use DeepSeek. This is why I use DeepSeek and not ChatGPT. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Have a good one.